Since Formula One management denied Michael Andretti's FIA-backed entry into Formula One, the Andretti Autosport team has been attacking the problem from every angle. They've been petitioning the teams, having conversations with Formula One management and their owners Liberty Media, but nothing so far has worked. It has been obvious since the FIA opened their invitation to new teams that the current grid and Formula One owners Liberty Media were not interested in having anyone else join them in the paddock. Andretti has gotten sick of empty talk and brick walls, so instead has decided to go to the highest power with influence over Liberty Media, recruiting the most powerful ally in the USA. Today, I'm going to tell you about Andretti's latest move to get into Formula One and whether it might work. So, don't go anywhere. In January, Grand Prix Racing's commercial rights holder, Formula One Management, or FOM, rejected Andretti Autosport's bid to join the F1 grid in 2025, despite the championship's regulator, the FIA, approving its technical capabilities last October. Formula One is not quite as simple as other sports. There are two controlling bodies involved. The first is the FIA, the international authority on all things motorsport. They write the rules for Formula One, hold the rights to the name Formula One, and the commercial rights. Those commercial rights are currently leased out though. Liberty Media are the current holders of that lease, controlling all of the commercial assets of the sport, including its broadcasting rights and sponsorship. Liberty Media controls what is known as the Formula One Group, which is a group of companies that are responsible for the overall organization, promotion, and use of the sport's commercial rights. Formula One Group is a publicly traded company based in the United States, a very important point. They trade as FWONK on the Nasdaq. Their value since they were first listed in 2016 has risen from $18.26 to over $70 per share currently, which is a very tidy return on investment for the Liberty Media Corporation, who are owned by American billionaire John Carl Malone. Formula One may be an international sport. All of the teams may be based in Europe, the people who write the rulebook may be based in Paris, but the commercial rights holder is based in the USA and therefore operates under US law, as does its owner John Carl Malone. It is the power that the US legal system has over Liberty Media that has allowed Andretti's new allies to get involved, but more on that in a second. Despite Andretti Autosport promising a US-based team with US-based manufacturer GM backing them, at a time when US interest in the sport is at an all-time high, FOM, owned by Liberty Media, rejected their proposal to join the grid. From the outside looking in, having an American team with an American engine for new fans to associate with would be a huge advantage and a great financial asset, but the rejection statement from FOM read, "Our assessment process has established that the presence of an 11th team would not, on its own, provide value to the championship. The most significant way in which a new entrant would bring value is by being competitive. We do not believe that the applicant would be a competitive participant." What FOM said and what they think may be two very different things though. In the run-up to the decision, a big complaint from the 10 current teams, who have a massive amount of influence over how FOM operate, was that they didn't want to split their earnings with another team, and that the $200 million that Andretti would have to pay to offset the splitting of earnings was not enough. That $200 million fee, known as an anti-dilution fee, is enshrined in the Concord Agreement, a contract that sets out the financial terms of Formula One between Liberty Media and the current grid. The current Concord Agreement is the 8th such agreement to be put in place and lasts until the end of 2025. The current 10 teams were arguing that the anti-dilution fee should be set at least $600 million. So, if Andretti's entry could be delayed until 2026, then they could charge his team an extra $400 million for the right to race in Formula One. Recent reports, though, have stated that the new Concord Agreement may limit the number of teams to 10, which means from 2026 onwards, it would be impossible for Andretti to enter. However, Andretti isn't willing to wait to find out what happens with the new Concord Agreement, not after the team have already invested in hundreds of staff, as well as facilities to house them, and research and development work to get ready for an entry to Formula One. The Andretti team's patriarch, 1978 F1 world champion Mario Andretti, visited Capitol Hill earlier this week, home of the American government, and met with Republican John James to discuss the potential for anti-competition laws to come into play because of FOM's rejection of his team. The role of US Congress members is to represent people of their districts, as well as develop and vote on legislation. In a letter which is addressed to Liberty Media boss Greg Maffei, 12 Congress members write to express our concerns with apparent anti-competitive actions that could prevent two American companies, Andretti Global and General Motors, from producing and competing in Formula One. They invoked the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890 and sought answers about the rationale for rejecting the teams, including whether it is designed to unfairly protect the European teams from competition in the US, where the fan base has grown dramatically. The letter was led by John James, who represents a district in Michigan, and it was signed by several lawmakers in the state among others. Importantly, Michigan is where General Motors are based, meaning that Liberty Media's decision to reject Andretti directly affects businesses and working people whom John James is meant to represent. The Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890 is an antitrust law which lays out the rules of free competition among those engaged in commerce. The Sherman Act broadly prohibits anti-competitive agreements and unilateral conduct that monopolizes or attempts to monopolize the relevant market. The argument is that by rejecting Andretti, the European-based teams with the help of FOM are monopolizing Formula One, as well as the advertising space it offers. The letter goes on to allege that FOM's rejection of the application appears to be driven by the current lineup of European Formula One race teams, many of which are affiliated with foreign automobile manufacturers that directly compete with American automotive companies like GM. It is unfair and wrong to attempt to block American companies from joining Formula One, which could also violate American antitrust laws. Participation of all Formula One teams, including any American teams, should be based on merit and not just limited to protecting the current lineup of race teams. This is especially true considering Formula One's growing presence in the United States, including 3 Grand Prix motor racing events in Miami, Florida, Austin, Texas, and Las Vegas, Nevada. The letter went on to demand answers from Liberty Media to the following 3 questions, which we summarized. What authority does FOM have to reject an 11th team? How does the decision to reject Andretti not violate the Sherman Antitrust Act? And how much of the decision to reject Andretti was based on Cadillac's intended expansion into the European market and the expansion's effect on European car manufacturers' market share? The current Formula One grid is dominated by European car manufacturers. Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin, Alpine, McLaren, and soon Audi are all based in Europe and all use Formula One as an advertising board for their brand. Racing in Formula One might be profitable for the teams, but it is the advertising for their cars which is of the most value. Having Andretti with Cadillac as a partner would add another car manufacturer to that advertising space, adding more competition. John James went as far as accusing the F1 owners of engaging in cartel-like behavior. From the outside looking in, one can ask, is this a money grab? One can ask, is Liberty Media kicking the can down the road for a different agreement so that they can go from the $200 million to $1 billion extracted from Andretti Cadillac? What happens now, and Liberty Media's response to the questions posed, will be interesting. While there may be a basis for the argument that Liberty Media are in breach of antitrust laws, actually making a case and taking Liberty to court over it is a far larger task. And any case that does start will likely take years to reach a conclusion, and if it does end in favor of Andretti, there's no guarantee that it will result in a place on the grid. Andretti's goal from this most recent move is likely about applying as much pressure as possible to Formula One in an attempt to strong-arm his way into the paddock. His brashness has rubbed Formula One the wrong way before, and this move won't do anything to improve the opinion of him among the current grid. But clearly, Andretti has decided that the time for making friends is over. What do you think of the American team's latest move to get themselves onto the grid? Is it going to work, or is this just going to widen the rift between Andretti and Formula One? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.